Hey guys, welcome to Dream Body Lifestyle TV. Now today we're going to talk about something totally different. We're going to talk about pilots, planes and control towers. A pilot has a control tower to lean onto. A pilot has a co-pilot. Now for a pilot to be safe and feel confident in his flying, he has to have somebody that has better eyesight for him, somebody that has an overview of the whole sky. Now one thing we've got to understand, when the pilot is busy flying the plane, the co-pilot is resting. And when the co-pilot takes over, the pilot is resting. And the same thing happens in life for all of us. We all pilots of our own lives. And we all have what we call a spiritual control tower. The pilot has ability to communicate with other pilots around. The pilot has ability to communicate with the pilot. As much as these people can tell him about what is happening around them, but it will be suicidal for the pilot to take instructions like dropping altitude or increasing speed based on what the other pilots have told him. Why? Because the other pilot's view of the sky is purely narrowed, was very much based on how they can see purely from the cockpit of their plane. It's a very small view of the sky. He has to take and trust the tower, because the tower will tell him or give him all the major decisions. What will be the major decisions? At what altitude to fly, at what speed to fly at. In this flight of life, you being the pilot, you'll always know a destination. A pilot does not get into a plane without locking into the destination first. And it doesn't mean that flying from point A to Z will be straight from point A, B, C, D. He might go off course, but because he knows the destination, it becomes easier for this pilot to reach there. Now, most of us will always have our heart's desire. We will always have dreams inside us. And in most cases, this becomes your destination. But the biggest problem with the dreams, the biggest problem with the desire is they're always bigger than what your reality is. It's so hard for you to see yourself as being a rich businessman, a rich entrepreneur, while at this point you're struggling to pay your bills. You haven't paid your rent, you haven't paid your car note, you're barely surviving in terms of taking care of your basic needs. So what happens when you have those big dreams? Fear sets in, excuses sets in, procrastination sets in, and in most cases we give up. Or when we go for advice, we always go to other pilots, we always go to people that have tried to chase their dreams and they've given up because their dreams were so big. Now, God communicates with us, and God communicates to people through so many different ways. Most of us are waiting for God to talk to us through words, but the biggest way that God communicates through us is always through feelings. God will always communicate through your heart by giving you desires. Your heart's desires becomes God's way of telling you what you're capable of. Becomes God's way of telling you what is in store for you. Now, for you to get full contentment, for you to be happy in life, you have to be able to follow your heart's desire. Now, you can't decide to do your own other things, but you'll never be content. It does not mean that if you chase and decide to fulfill your own purpose that you're not going to be successful. You're going to be successful, but you're going to be successful at a price. You're going to be successful at a cost, and at the cost of your own happiness, at the cost of your own peace. How do you know if this is a call from God? How do you know where this desire is from? Purely, time becomes the best thing to do that. If a desire is from God, the longer it takes on, the stronger it becomes. It doesn't matter. You can't run away from God's call for you. But if it is from the ego, with time it gets weaker and weaker. You might chase money, you might chase worldly things, and you might become successful at them, but at the expense of making your heart unhappy. But if you focus all your life on God, and when we're talking about God, we're talking about you being in communication, constant communication with your spiritual tower, that's where your peace comes in. Now, your purpose in most cases becomes your heart's desire. Now, your purpose is what you have the ability of being able to fulfill. How do we find out what our purpose is? It means we have to refer back to the spiritual tower. Most of us, we never spend enough time going back to the spiritual tower. We spend a lot of time talking to these other pilots that are around us. And because most of these pilots have failed in their endeavors, they instill fear in us. Now, how do we beat fear? To beat fear, you can only